Canada, universal healthcare, clean cities, stunning landscapes, consistently ranked as one of the best countries in the world to live in. If you ask most people to name a country with a stable, well-managed economy, Canada would be near the top of the list. But behind that reputation, something is breaking. Home prices have crashed 21% from their peak, wiping out 5 years of gains. After adjusting for inflation, Canadian homeowners have actually experienced zero real price appreciation over the last 9 years. Over 1 million mortgages are coming up for renewal this year, and the average homeowner will see their monthly payment jump by 20%. The country's manufacturing sector has lost over 51,000 jobs in the last 12 months. And the nation that built its modern economy on trade with America is now being hit with tariffs on steel, aluminum, lumber, and auto parts, the backbone of Canadian industry. What we're seeing in Canada isn't a headline-shattering collapse. Instead, it's something quieter, and in many ways more dangerous. A slow-motion crash that most people won't notice until it's too late. To understand what's happening in Canada, you have to start with housing. Because in Canada, housing isn't just a sector of the economy, it is the economy. Residential construction alone accounts for roughly 8% of Canadian GDP. When you add in real estate services, mortgage lending, renovation spending, and furniture, housing-adjacent activity drives a massive share of the country's total economic output. For 25 years, this model worked beautifully. Canadian home prices climbed relentlessly. Homeowners felt richer. They borrowed against their equity to renovate, to invest, to spend. Banks lent aggressively against rising property values. The cycle fed itself, and everyone benefited as long as prices kept going up. Then they stopped. Per the Canadian Real Estate Association, the national benchmark home price peaked at $841,300 Canadian dollars in March 2022. By February 2026, it had fallen to $661,300 Canadian dollars, a 21% decline. But that number actually understates the damage. According to BMO, when you adjust for inflation, the real decline is closer to 30%. Canadian homeowners have now seen 9 years of no real price appreciation. 9 years of owning an asset that's going nowhere while the cost of everything else keeps rising. The pain is concentrated in the two biggest markets. Toronto's past due mortgage payments have more than quadrupled from their post-pandemic lows. Condo investors who bought at the peak are now underwater, unable to sell without taking a loss. Ontario and British Columbia, the two provinces that powered Canada's entire housing boom, are now projected to have the weakest GDP growth of any province in 2026. But the real crisis hasn't fully arrived yet. Over 1.15 million Canadian mortgages are set to renew this year. And here's something most people outside Canada don't realize. In the United States, if you lock in a 3% mortgage, you can keep that rate for 30 years. It's fixed for the life of the loan. Canada's system works completely differently. The standard Canadian mortgage is spread over 25 years, but the interest rate is only guaranteed for a 5-year term. When that term expires, the homeowner has to renew at whatever rate the market is offering that day. There is no choice, no option to keep the old rate. So every Canadian who bought a home in 2020 or 2021, when interest rates were at historic lows around 1.5%, is now being forced to renew into rates that have more than doubled. The Bank of Canada estimates that the average 5-year fixed-rate borrower renewing in 2026 will face a payment increase of roughly 20%. At the extreme end, about 10% of variable interest rate holders face payment increases of more than 40%. A homeowner who bought an average price Vancouver home in 2021 at $900,000 Canadian dollars, put 20% down, and locked in at 1.7% is now renewing at rates above 3.5%, adding hundreds of dollars per month to a payment they were already stretching to afford. Canada's housing agency, the CMHC, has warned that if business conditions worsen, the country could slip into a recession in 2026. And new home construction is collapsing. Builders are finishing existing projects, but not starting new ones, which means the housing supply crisis will only deepen by 2028. If housing is the first pillar of Canada's economy, trade with the United States is the second. and that pillar is cracking at the same time. Canada is one of the most trade-dependent developed economies on Earth. Roughly 75% of its exports go to a single customer, the United States. That level of concentration was always a vulnerability. Now it's becoming a massive problem. US tariffs on Canadian steel, aluminum, copper, lumber, and auto parts have been in effect for over a year. The damage is showing up in every data set. Manufacturing has lost 51,800 jobs in the past 12 months. Ontario's manufacturing GDP declined by 8% in 2026. The motor vehicle parts industry was hit hardest. Output fell 22% in tariff-affected categories. More than 1,000 workers were laid off at the General Motors plant in Oshawa alone, with the company shifting production back to the United States. The numbers tell the story, but the mechanics make it worse. When the US applies tariffs, Canadian manufacturers can't simply redirect to other customers overnight. The supply chains are too deeply integrated. Parts cross the Canadian-US border multiple times during production before a finished product emerges. A tariff at any point in that chain disrupts the entire process. And the pain isn't limited to big factories. The tariff war has also driven up costs for Canadian consumers. The Canadian dollar has weakened significantly, making imports from the United States and other countries more expensive. Groceries, building materials, household goods, all cost more when your currency buys less. Households that were already stretched by mortgage renewals are now paying more for everything else too. The Bank of Canada has warned that the economy is at a crossroads. GDP growth is forecast at just 1.1% for 2026. Business investment has stalled because companies don't know what the trade rules will be 6 months from now. The CUSMA trade agreement, the deal that governs most Canada-US trade, is up for review this summer, and its renewal is far from certain. But here's what most people miss. The tariff damage extends far beyond the factories. Uncertainty is contagious. When businesses pause investment, they stop hiring. When hiring slows, consumer spending weakens. When spending drops, services, restaurants, retail, construction, all contract. Ontario alone is projected to have over 119,000 fewer jobs in 2026 than it would have without tariffs. That's not just a manufacturing problem. That's an economy-wide problem. The Bank of Canada itself painted the worst-case scenario in stark terms. If the economy fails to restructure, Canada becomes a less attractive place to invest. Businesses become less competitive. Job and wage growth are weak, incomes don't recover, and affordability worsens. That's the country's own central bank warning that the damage could become permanent. If you're learning something new, consider subscribing. Most of what we cover here never makes the mainstream news, and it probably should. Canada's housing market is stalling. Its trade relationship with America is fracturing. And now the third pillar of the economy, the one that was supposed to fix everything else, is being pulled out from underneath. For years, Canada's economic growth strategy had a simple engine: immigration. Bring in hundreds of thousands of people per year, and they buy houses, pay taxes, fill jobs, and drive consumer spending. In 2023 alone, Canada saw a 46% increase in new permanent residents. The population was growing fast enough to mask the underlying economic weakness. Then, the government reversed course. Federal immigration caps tightened dramatically in 2024 and 2025. The outflow of temporary residents exceeded 660,000 in a single year. And in 2025, something happened that had never occurred before in Canadian history. The population actually shrank. The Toronto District School Board is now projecting 5,000 fewer students for the 2026 to 2027 school year. That's not a blip. That's a leading indicator of demographic contraction in the country's largest city. At the same time, Canada is losing the people it can least afford to lose. The housing affordability crisis has made it nearly impossible to retain international students who graduate from Canadian universities, the exact people the economy needs to drive innovation and growth. Young professionals are looking at salaries in the United States, Switzerland, and Australia, doing the math, and leaving. When your most productive citizens move to other countries, the tax base shrinks, innovation slows, and the workforce loses the people who are supposed to lead the economic restructuring the Bank of Canada says is essential. This creates a trap. Fewer people means less demand for housing, which pushes prices even lower, which weakens household wealth, which reduces consumer spending. But fewer people also means a smaller workforce paying into pensions and public services at the exact moment an aging population needs more support. The math moves in one direction. Canada's dependency ratio, the number of retirees relative to working-age adults, is climbing steadily. Every year, more people draw from the system and fewer people pay into it. Without either strong immigration or dramatically higher productivity, the gap between what the government promises and what the government can deliver will only widen. And here's the deeper structural problem. Researchers at the Harvard Growth Lab found that Canada's housing market has been absorbing productivity gains rather than creating prosperity. In plain language, instead of becoming more innovative and competitive, Canada simply became more expensive. The money that could have gone into building better businesses went into bidding up house prices instead. And now that prices are falling, the country has neither the productivity gains nor the property wealth. It has the worst of both worlds. Canada's crisis matters beyond its borders because Canada is not unique. Australia, New Zealand, the UK, and parts of Northern Europe all follow the same playbook. Use low interest rates to inflate housing values, let rising property wealth drive consumer spending, and rely on immigration to sustain population growth and tax revenue. Canada is just a country that hit the wall first. The era that made this model possible is over. The central bank safety net that enabled cheap borrowing for over a decade has been dismantled. The Bank of Canada cut rates 9 times, but rates are still far higher than they were during the boom years. And mortgage rates are actually rising again because the market is worried about risk. The free money era that powered Canada's housing boom is not coming back. We've covered this pattern playing out across multiple countries on this channel. Australia's $12 trillion housing trap, New Zealand's exodus, the UK's structural economic decline. In each case, the story is the same. An economy that used housing as a growth engine rather than building genuine productive capacity. Canada is the latest and in some ways the most striking example because it was the one everybody assumed was too stable, too well managed, and too rich in resources to fail. But the Bank of Canada's own worst-case scenario says it plainly. If the economy doesn't restructure, Canada becomes a less attractive place to invest, businesses can't compete, wages stagnate, and affordability gets worse. That's not a fringe warning. That's the central bank admitting out loud that the current path leads somewhere no one wants to go. Canada built its modern economy on 3 pillars: ever-rising home prices, frictionless trade with the United States, and immigration. All 3 pillars are now cracking at the same time. The housing market that was supposed to make Canadians wealthy is now the weight dragging them under. The trade relationship that powered Canadian industry for decades is being rewritten by tariffs and political uncertainty. And the demographic engine that was supposed to fix everything has been thrown into reverse. The decline isn't loud. There's no single crisis moment, no bank failure, no currency crash. It's quieter than that, and that's what makes it so dangerous. Because by the time most people realize what's happening, the damage will already be done. To see how another country's housing-driven economy is unraveling right now, click on the video on the screen.